and let's talk some ball, man, specifically gambling. I think I've found three, I don't want to say locks, but three really good future bets for this upcoming college football season that I feel pretty confident in locking in right now in mid-July. This is not gambling advice. This is simply just some research that you could do yourself. But a guy like me, man, I'm always thinking about it and always trying to be one step ahead of Vegas, which is extremely hard to do. So you have your good days and you have your bad days gambling, I suppose. But let's roll into three, man. Now, these are, I guess, in a way, hot takes, but, I think there's value in the three bets that I'm going to discuss. And number one, it's no secret. We've been talking about it. And now in this video, I'm finally going to go a little bit more in depth about why the West Virginia team total for this upcoming season over 5.5 is a really good bet, I think. And let's start with the fact that as we've kind of been talking about it the past 2 weeks, it's fluctuated from I think it capped out at plus 146 and then finally got bought back down to around 130. It's currently sitting. So there is some money coming in on that over when it got up to 140. I did not get that in at 140, so I kind of missed the total right there. But anyway, that, as I'm looking through these kind of win totals, specifically for Big 12, right, they have kind of placed us in this group of Arizona, who is at over under 5.5 wins. Oklahoma State is at 5.5 wins. Houston, 5.5 wins. UCF, 5.5 wins. So they really have us projected in the lower end of the Big 12 this upcoming season. And I just, man, I don't know. I'll start with this. I'm going to take my fandom, right, being a fan of West Virginia, out of this for a second and look at it from a value perspective of this bet. Number one, all right, when you look at our schedule, last video we talked about all the quarterbacks that West Virginia is going to be facing this upcoming season. And we know there's some uncertainty about Nico, Henderson, even Rich Rod at Big 12 Media here recently said that he feels confident in playing Max Brown. Is that really the case? I think that's a smokescreen. I think it's Nico or Jalen 100%, but he feels confident in that room. So why I kind of feel confident about this over 5.5 is when you look through the schedule, right? We will have the better quarterback on paper versus Robert Morris, Ohio. I would say, I would give Holstein the edge versus Pitt, as disgusting as it is to say. I do think he has the edge a little bit. Flip a coin, like we said about the Jalen Daniels. So there's three. I don't know if we have a quarterback better than Dampier at Utah. BYU for sure. UCF, not better than Hoover. Wegman's kind of up in the air. I would maybe lean Wegman in a bounce back year. I would take whoever over Salter or potentially Julian Lewis at Colorado there late in the season. Who knows what they look like in the Big 12 this year with no Shadur, no Travis Hunter. They're kind of up in the air. You're not getting it. You're not getting the better quarterback versus Leavitt and Texas Tech. So I think 6 games alone, you will have the better quarterback, right? And when you look at that schedule, we've kind of talked about the swing games for the season being that Pitt game, obviously week 3. And then, you can pick and choose later in the season if you want to choose Colorado, Houston, UCF. There's a couple games where it'll be, make or break your season. And I think that's what Vegas is kind of thinking too, and why our win total is so low at 5.5 here. But I just think, man, 6 wins, especially if you get out to a really good start and beat Pitt, you would be sitting at 3-0 heading into Kansas away game. You win that, which by no means will be an easy game, and Pitt will not be an easy game either. As Vegas has already put up, we're underdogs in that game. You could be potentially 4-0 heading into week 5, where you finally start to see some steady Big 12 competition there with Utah, who's going to be really good. BYU, who's a big question mark now without Retzloff, but they're going to have the running back, LJ Martin. It's at BYU at a 10:30 kickoff. Odds are definitely going to be against us in that game. And then you kind of have that stretch, like I said, UCF, TCU, Houston, Colorado. There's a lot of games where I think will be very mispriced as far as single game lines go, whether that's, we're gaining 6.5 points, we're gaining a touchdown in games. I just think that Vegas is undervaluing kind of the West Virginia roster this year. And in a way, like, I understand it. Huge roster turnover, over 70 new guys coming in. Majority of, obviously, the starting 22 on offense and defense are going to be brand new to this team. Of course, other than Jaheim White, Jaden Bray, a couple other guys. But I think the overall impact players they brought in are kind of better than surrounding Big 12 teams. And maybe I'm wrong, and we're not going to know until we obviously get into the season and games start. But it's like, I don't know. Once again, taking my fandom out of it, I value Cam Vaughn, right? A really, really good wide receiver with potential to grow. I don't think that the jump from Jacksonville State to West Virginia hurts his numbers. I think if anything, especially in the role that he's going to play, you're looking at an ex-wide receiver and somebody very comfortable in the Rich Rod system. Now, that's just one example. We know Jaheim White. We know the offense. Defensive side of the ball, it's boom or bust. And, it's if you like Zach Alley or not. I would imagine whoever is betting the under for 5.5 win totals is obviously against our defense with Zach Alley's coordinator, the talent that we're going to be displaying this upcoming year. But once again, even on that defensive side of the ball, like Jamori Robinson, Fred Perry, Michael Coates, there are a bunch of guys making the jump from mid-major to Power 4 football that are more than capable. Juice Scruggs, I think this defense is being heavily slept on, and in recent years we haven't really had the benefit to say that, right? It's been pretty bad for the most part. But I think this year the defense at times will be able to really, if the offense is struggling at times, take pressure, relief off of the offensive side of the ball. But I don't really think Rich Rod's going to struggle on that side of the ball. I really don't. So, with everything I just discussed, the landscape of Big 12 and how open this conference is this year, you're telling me that we can get a team like West Virginia who is playing, a couple of these 5.5 win total teams this year, UCF, a couple other. I just like the value in this bet, man. And then I will insert, being a fan of this team, the thing that Vegas will never understand is, there was a ton of hype this past season. Obviously, after the 9-4 season, Duke's Mayo Bowl win, and Neil Brown happened. It happened, man. It was ugly. It was disgusting, and I do not mean to get everybody's hopes up, but everybody can kind of feel it, right? Like, Rich Rod's back. There's something in the air. It's different. Pat White, Rasheed Marshall, Noel Devine, there's something in the air in West Virginia that just odds makers cannot understand. And I think a lot of these home games, man, are going to be extremely hard to win for opposing teams. Whereas last year, we had the night game and the obvious statement from Neil Brown about tailgate good, all that stuff. That stuff's out the door, man. This isn't nice guy bullshit anymore. Rich Rod's here to win games, man, and he's put that on the map, and he's letting people know. And I definitely don't think that 7-8 wins at a minimum is out of question year one. We'll definitely do a dive in later into the season about this team and kind of our final schedule predictions, but I got a really good feeling, man, that Rich Rod is coming in with some vengeance here starting week one with Robert Morris, and it's just going to kind of roll. And I don't know, 5.5 seems extremely low to me. And when I saw that the value had went down 10 cents from 140 to plus 130, I think now's a pretty good time to lock it in, man, especially if you're really high on the Mountaineers like we are this season. Obviously, I've just been saying, not being a fan, I see value in it. Being a fan and understanding and being around, football in Morgantown and things like that, I think it's going to be a pretty, I think it's going to be a good year, a special year. But 6 wins, man, that feels very, very doable year one under Rich Rodriguez. And I'm locking that in as my first favorite bet for this upcoming season. All right, man, for my second bet, let's talk some ACC football because I'm going to be taking the Clemson Tigers to win the ACC outright. And let's start from this aspect. I think on paper, heading into this year, they are by far the most talented team in the ACC, which, let's be honest, at times this conference has not looked the part in recent years. Coming into this year, you still have your teams like Stanford, last season 3-9, Wake Forest 4-8, UVA 5-7 this past year, California 6-7, Syracuse, who had a really good year last year at 10-3, but 5-3 in the ACC. and lose McCord. Obviously, a lot of question marks, stuff like that. Boston College. It's just one of these conferences where, I don't know. I feel like most of the time when you have a complete team like Clemson does, you have the opportunity to just completely run through anybody any given week. And it doesn't matter what the spread is, doesn't matter who you're playing. And I think that's kind of what's going to happen here with Clemson. They have, obviously, we can start with Cade Klubnik, who I don't know if I'm ready to deem kind of the preseason, best quarterback in college football. It's definitely up for debate with a couple guys, him, Nussmeier. Arch is a different video that I would have to explain. If you can't beat out a 6th-round pick, Quinn Ewers, what do you really look like? We'll find out, I guess. But, Sellers at South Carolina. So Klubnik is definitely in that top 5, 6 quarterbacks coming into college football this upcoming year. So that's obviously a big help. But, my gosh, man, when you look on the defensive side of the ball, they have 2 guys on the defensive line who could potentially be the first overall pick in this upcoming NFL draft. TJ Parker, an edge, is unbelievable. One of the best edge rushing prospects in this upcoming draft class, 6'3", 265. And then they also have Peter Woods, a defensive lineman, at 6'3", 315. Both of these guys are going to be dominant. We understand that in college football especially, a majority of games are literally won and lost in the trenches in the offense-defensive line. And I think that is where, especially in the ACC, Clemson is going to have a dominant advantage, not only on the defensive line, but the offensive line too. And will, be heavy favorites in a lot of these games just because of how physical and dominant they'll be. You add in, they have Avion Terrell, who's a projected first-round pick this upcoming year. There's talent all over the field. That's not necessarily something that caught my eye, but obviously it helps. What caught my eye is, along with the ACC schedule that they have this year, you look at the non-conference. They open up the season this year with LSU, who we know and have saw in previous years. LSU in the first kind of 2 weeks of the season, they have been very shaky. Like week 1 there, when they play LSU, I will probably be leaning heavy towards Clemson just because history kind of shows LSU tends to struggle a little bit, especially in that season opener. You roll into Troy week 2, that's a win. Georgia Tech, who's a better team, but can you keep up talent level with a complete team like Clemson? I don't know. Syracuse in week 4 with Steve Angeli, the transfer from Notre Dame. I think you win that game. I'm not very high on North Carolina this year. Bill Belichick is obviously too busy with his college girlfriend, Jordan Hudson there. But we don't know. There's a lot of question marks about UNC, but I just don't think him, Gio Lopez, that team in general, not this year. Could be contenders in the ACC within the next 3. Mac Brown, the former head coach, didn't leave Belichick with a ton to work with, although he did well recruiting and bringing some guys in. So that would be an interesting game to watch. But Boston College, once again, ACC, that looks good, you know what I mean? SMU will be an interesting game, but I would take Clemson in it. Duke, obviously the quarterback, Menza coming from Tulane. I would also take Clemson in that, man. Florida State, Castellanos, once again, I'm not betting on a Florida State bounce back this year, so I would take Clemson. Louisville is the one team in the ACC that actually I would take them. I have to see if I can find it, to finish second in the conference. I think that they will end up being better than Miami and Carson Beck. I like Miller Moss going there. I think they had a ton of games this past year where it was one-possession games. Louisville will be a really good ACC team this year. And then you have Furman and South Carolina to close out your season. They obviously lost to South Carolina last year, so we'll be looking for a bit of a bounce back in that game. Will not be easy, obviously, with Lenore Sellers, a couple other guys on that squad that's very good. But when you lose, you probably have some incentive to really get a win back in a rivalry game like that. So favorable schedule, talent all over the field. S-tier, heading into the season, S-tier quarterback in Cade Klubnik. Really good. Another thing I want to talk about is the receiving room. Not only are they returning Antonio Williams, a really, really talented receiver, 904 yards this past season, but both Bryant Westco Jr. and TJ Moore are back. Your running back room is going to be made up of Jay Haynes, who had 43 carries this past year, but they have a really talented freshman. And Gideon, I believe Davis is his last name. I could be wrong. It'll be up on the screen. But Offense is more than capable. Defense, I already talked about. There are literally 3 probably top 15 draft picks on that defensive line. And obviously the roster, itself is just full and complete. Very, very capable team. This could be the year of the Tigers, man. Dare I say. It's definitely early to start talking about national championship expectations, but I feel pretty confident ACC-wise, right? When you look at the odds, they're sitting at plus 115. Next favorite team is Miami at plus 370, and then Louisville is favored third, plus 800, SMU 950. So Vegas as well thinks that there's a pretty clear gap for Clemson to the rest of the teams in the ACC. And I think getting a line like plus 115 to kind of double up your money, right? I mean, whatever you're betting, $25 will win you just about 30, $100 will win you 115, stuff like that. So I think right now, especially if you're a heavy bettor, not gambling advice, not financial advice, just saying, you would definitely want to snag a ACC conference championship line earlier, because once this season gets rolling and they start winning a couple games, you could see this line definitely drop to about minus 110, minus 125. I could see it even getting as high as probably like 150. It would take them to lose a game that they are not supposed to lose late in the season for it to really be jeopardized. I think regardless, they are going to play in the ACC Conference Championship game. That's where things get shaky, and we've seen it time and time again. Georgia, Alabama, stuff like that in the SEC. Your conference championship game can get tricky, man. And even the ACC game last year, Clemson, SMU, that was a hell of a game. But I think this year, talent kind of pulls it away. Klubnik kind of leads this team to the playoffs and has a sneaky kind of Heisman campaign. That's kind of where I'm at with Clemson, man. Really, like I said, Clemson and Louisville, kind of my 2 favorite ACC teams. We'll wait and see what Carson Beck looks like with Miami. I was so indulged on the Cam Ward era of Miami last year that it's like I have a hard time seeing what they look like without that play style now. So it'll kind of take me a couple weeks to see what Miami looks like. But I think I know what I'm going to see from Clemson. You're going to have that defense that's just going to dominate a ton of games in the ACC. I think they dominate all the way to the college football playoffs and win the ACC, and that's my second favorite bet, is Clemson to win the ACC championship. All right, man. And the last and final futures bet, let's bounce back to the Big 12 and talk about why I am going to take Texas Tech to win the Big 12 this upcoming year. I know what you're thinking. Texas Tech, man, what? You look at odds right now, Utah is the favorite at plus 550. So let's start right there, right? Because when Vegas has set a conference winner and the first price is plus 550, they even know that this conference is wide open this year, man. And it was like that last year. You guys, thank Arizona State for that, right? And it's going to be no different this year. Is there a chance Arizona State repeats? Of course. But there's also a chance that there's a new Arizona State that walks right into the Big 12 this year and plays their way to the college football playoffs. And welcome to the world of Big 12, because I think for a while here, this is what we're going to get. A very wide open conference that, at media day they were talking about, we want 2 teams to make the college football play. It's just hard with how deep the SEC is and some of those teams. You're going to have your big name schools in there, and Michigan is always going to get back in there at one point. So we'll see. 2 teams kind of steep, I think, for this upcoming year, but maybe in the future. But anyway, back to my point. Man, this conference this year, if Utah's the favorite, Kansas State second at plus 600, Arizona State plus 600, Baylor at plus 650, who I like this year. Pretty good value on that as well. But Texas Tech at plus 650 feels very, very good. And let's get into my reasoning why. So if you've kind of been out of the loop of things, Texas Tech this offseason, they have literally a billionaire booster. His name's Cody Campbell. I believe he was a former player for the school, turned millionaire, and is now literally just donating a ton of money to, he's like their head booster, I guess is the best way to put it. But he opened up his pockets, man. This is an ESPN article from Max Olson on February 11th, which is, outdated, and I'll kind of update it here in a second. But he states the goal going into December was to spend $5 million and get around 10 players. Well, insert Cody Campbell, who says, what's the problem? Money, right? Like, money just grows on trees, right? Here's X amount of money. So what that did was, it opened Texas Tech up to bringing in, this was in February, 17 new players, including 7 of the top 75 players in ESPN's transfer rankings, good enough to make them the number 2 ranked portal class in early January. Total cost of the splurge, $10 million. And this was in February. We, up to date now in July, they have 21 incoming transfers. And the difference between just 21 transfers and then Texas Tech's 21 transfers coming into this year is the talent level that the guys that they have brought in and the impact that they're going to make in a wide open conference in the Big 12. I mean, I'm not going to bore you and go down the list, but just 4 stars, 3 stars. I mean, they are absolutely loaded this upcoming year, and they spent the money to do it, man. And when you look at their roster, right, obviously returning quarterback in Baron Morton, who's very good. We talked about him. Very good pocket passer. Will shred you if the offensive line allows him to. And what did they do in the transfer portal? They went out and bought 2 guys. Howard Sampson, a left tackle from, I believe, UNC. Let me double check. Yep, UNC, 4-star transfer portal guy. And then Hunter Zambrano, another transfer guy coming in. They went and bought Quentin Joyner from USC, who was really good last year, behind Woody Marks, I believe it was. So in a full-time role, he's going to be very good for Texas Tech. Last year, if you guys remember, Taj Brooks ran for about 1,500 yards in this offense. He's very good. Micah Hudson is a returning player for them. He was wild story. It was Texas Tech to Texas A&M, back to Texas Tech in somewhat of that order. Really talented receiver if he can get on the field and stay on the field. Reggie Virgil from Miami of Ohio will play a little bit there, wide receiver. They have this mixture of both returning players and where they spent their money wisely. It's like literally what an NFL team would do, free agency, right? Hey, we have really good core returning at quarterback, wide receiver 2, left guard, right guard, but we need to spend money and address, boom. And that's exactly what they did. Went out, shored up the tackle positions. They went out and basically got a brand new defensive line. David Bailey, 4-star. Romello Height, 4-star, I believe. It's unbelievable the talent that they brought in one single transfer portal class. And on top of, they, once again, like Clemson, have a very favorable schedule in the Big 12. And when I talked about West Virginia and the win total being 6, when you talk about complete rosters, Texas Tech is maybe 1 in terms of power rankings for the Big 12 this year. And they start their year with basically 3 wins: Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, Oregon State. They play at Utah, which will be a tough game, as Vegas sees Utah very high this year. I think a lot of people who keep up with Big 12 football are not very high on Utah, but definitely should be. They'll be a very good team in the Big 12 this year. I expect them to bounce back with Dampier at quarterback. Houston, I mean, when it comes to Wegman versus Morin and then just the overall talent, I would take Texas Tech no matter what the spread is. Kansas, Arizona State, hot take. That'll be a really good game to bet on because I will be looking for Texas Tech around even money in it would be deemed an upset spot at Arizona State in an away game. But Oklahoma State, Kansas State, BYU, UCF, and then West Virginia at the end, they have a very favorable schedule in a wide open conference. They spent all of this money. Is literally, their coach said, we're pushing all our chips in. The commitment is there. Financially, it backs it up. And when you look at it from an odds maker's perspective, and the first team you have favored in the Big 12 is sitting at plus 550, honestly, take your pick, right? I mean, that's what it says to me. Take your pick of who you think is going to win the Big 12 because really there's no bad bet. I mean, obviously, when you get down to like the bottom, like UCF isn't going to win the Big 12. Arizona's not going to win the Big 12. There's a couple teams where it's a very, very long shot, but I would feel really, really confident about, obviously, my pick, Texas Tech. I love them this year. Baylor, I like Sawyer Robinson, but it's going to come down to a couple of those key spot games. And obviously, this league, especially this upcoming year, will be one where it's like a lot of things that teams can't control, like if Texas Tech needs to win versus whoever, and then they also need X team to beat Y team. It's like you'll see a ton of that in the Big 12 this year because I think the middle part of the Big 12 will be closer to the top or the top echelon, if that makes sense, compared to the bottom. Like, I think you'll definitely have your kind of crappy teams this upcoming year. Let's hope WVU is not in that crappy tier. I think that they'll be somewhere in the mid to above. And it's going to be a bloodbath in the Big 12 this year. But I think there's really good value on Texas Tech at plus 650. And that's kind of my final bet. And, the saying money talks is kind of really my only backing point. But when you look into the positions that they went out and spent, like I told you, both tackle positions, a full defensive line, you kind of add in a piece here and there where you need it in the secondary and the receiver room. Really good. I'm telling you, Quentin Jr. is going to be amazing for them this upcoming season. It could be scary down there in Lubbock, and that's a team, it's a very hard place to win down there. And Big 12, man, welcome to it. It'll be one of the best conferences to watch in college football this year. So, hey, man, as always, appreciate you watching. Let me know what you guys think. Obviously, this is kind of the first video that I've done. Noah, not available to do it with me today, but kind of specified around gambling. I know it's not for everybody, but it's definitely a different way of looking at football and just kind of sports in general. And, I obviously enjoy doing it, which, I'm not an addict, I swear. It's fun. There's money to be made, of course, and not gambling advice. We're just trying to help people out, man, and kind of give a different outlook and perspective. And I'm sure that everybody has a different input as to really the Big 12. I know a lot of people will be watching it from the West Virginia fans coming in, stuff like that. So interested to see who you guys think will win the Big 12, and kind of if you agree with my take of it being wide open this year. And yeah, man, I mean 50 days I think till West Virginia opens the season with Robert Morris, and football is on the way, man. So, hey, appreciate you watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Giveaway is still intact. We're right around 255 subscribers, I think. Can't remember off the top of my head. But Major Harris photo, signed photo with not Don Nealon signature 2, Bob Huggins gold suits, not focusing very good, and the Zach Frazier signed hat. So all you got to do is subscribe. You're automatically entered. If you have your YouTube thing, your subscription hidden, make sure to leave a comment so we can get you entered into it. And that's all, man. Everybody enjoy, and nice talking some ball, of course. So, hey, we'll see you in the next one.